Welcome to My Watches with Ben, where I talk about choices I've made in my watch collecting hobby. Was this a good or a bad choice? Keep watching to find out. Today's watch is the Bertucci A-2SEL. I picked this watch up after finishing the 6-hour field watch video, linked in the description. I really wanted to add a Bertucci to the collection, and this was the one I was most excited about. Other Bertuccis were contenders as well, like the Construction King. But this is the one I went with because Bertucci looks like it has poor lume. More on that later. And so I thought the one with the backlight might be really nice for camping. You know, when you wake up at 3 a.m. and you want to know what time it is, the backlight is a lot better than traditional lume. So yeah, I mean, this is a no-nonsense field watch. It was really highly scored on that field watch video. I just thought it was a really excellent choice. And keep watching to find out all my thoughts on this thing. First, I'll cover the specs and features, then I'll do the positives and negatives, and at the end, I'll give you my final thoughts. Let's start off with the specs. Specifications. Diameter is 40 millimeters. Lug width is 22 millimeters. The thickness is 11.9, basically just 12. Lug to lug is 48 millimeters. The water resistance is 100 meters. The crystal is a mineral crystal. It has a Japan quartz movement. Price I paid was $175, and the case material is stainless steel, media blasted. On to the features. For complications, other than the second hand, the only other complication is the electroluminescent backlight operated with this button at 2 o'clock. There's no date. When you press down the button, it will shine for a moment and then go. I think there's like 1 or 2 seconds that it'll stay on from the moment you let go of the button. If you just hold it down, the light will stay on. All right, for the hands. There's a sword-style hour and minute hands filled with conventional lume and an arrow-tipped second hand with a circle counterbalance. With the dial, everything is very high contrast. Black text on an eggshell white dial. Due to the electroluminescent light under the white dial, there's kind of a warm quality to the appearance. It kind of soaks in the light and radiates a bit back, kind of like a frosted window. So that's really pleasing. I think the dial looks amazing. There's a ton of printing on the dial. Let me zoom in. Stainless steel, A1111117, however many ones there are. 100 meters. Swiss super illuminated, EL. There's a lot of printing on this dial. We have the hours 1 through 12 and then 13 through 24 on the inside, so all of those. We get the Bertucci brand name printed above the pinion, and there's some advertising for the backlight, which I mentioned. It says Swiss, so apparently the backlight is also Swiss made. There's crazy text. I don't know. It's totally unnecessary, but it does fill out the dial more to have a little bit of text on there. It's very tall and thick chapter ring. Kind of gives some depth to the dial. All 60 minutes have a marking, which is good. And there's lume triangles every 5 minutes. I'll show you that lume later. Actually, I'll show you now. We're on to lume. The backlight is so good. It's a major highlight, no pun intended, of the watch. I really like that they put conventional lume on the hands and indices as well. The idea being you can still see the time if you don't have a hand free to push the EL button, or if you just want to stay dark for tactical reasons. However, all the indexes are identical, so you're going to have orientation issues. It would have been nice if the 12 o'clock index was a little bit different, if it was like a rectangle or something. Just, you know, something a little different so that you could tell where 12 is in the dark. So otherwise, these all look identical. It's kind of a huge pet peeve of mine because when you wake up in your tent at 3 a.m. and you want to know what time it is, you have no way to tell what the indexes represent unless you push the button, you know. If your electroluminescent backlight battery is charged and you push the button, then you can see what time it is. That said, the conventional lume is definitely passable. Let me show you. So this is a new feature on the channel. I'm just going to show you this watch next to 16 other watches in my collection. These 16 watches have varying quality of lume. I put them on a time lapse of 24 minutes, so it kind of approximates what it'll look like when you wake up before dawn and look at the watch in the dark. It pretty much looks like this if you take a look at it right before dawn. So as you can see at the end of the 24 minutes, the conventional lume of the Bertucci A-2SEL gets 7th place out of the 17 watches on the screen. So it's actually beat out the Hamilton Khaki Field Automatic. If I translate that to a 10-point scale, it earns 4 out of 10 for loom, for its conventional loom. So it's not going to win any awards, but it should still be there before dawn if you charge it up well before bed. So that's really nice. Okay, so now about that backlight. So I've had this watch for 5 months, and after the 5 months, mine is totally drained. I press the button and it's barely visible at all. And I don't have a replacement 626 battery. I probably should have just picked some up. In fact, if you're getting this watch, I would recommend just get some of the replacement batteries with it. So if that thing goes low, you can just change it out. They appear to be about $1 a piece. Like you can get a 5-pack for $5. It's just annoying. Like the price is not really the main issue here. The main issue is the fact that you have to take the case back off and replace a battery. It's really annoying. There's 2 batteries. There's one for the movement, one for the backlight. According to the manual, the backlight battery is supposed to last 1.5 years. The movement battery is supposed to last 4 years. They're both 626 batteries. There's just 2 batteries in here. Mine didn't even make it 6 months. Didn't even make it a third of the way to the 1.5 years that's promised. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if they just put like a weak battery in to begin with. I barely used the backlight at all, so this is definitely concerning. That's something that should concern anyone who wants to get the watch. Fortunately, as we saw a moment ago, that conventional loom is pretty sweet. So let me show you how the backlight looked 5 months ago when I got it. That's going to be better. And here it is today. Here's what the backlight looks like today. Not good. But okay, you probably want to see how does this backlight compare to other electroluminescent backlights. So here's how it compares with the G-Shock DW5600. There you go. And then here's how it compares to a Timex watch that my wife gave me a long time ago. I have no idea what the model number is. It's just generic Timex. They make 1 million models. There you go. Timex is actually a little brighter, but the Bertucci is still pretty nice. It's very pleasing. Especially when I first got it. Obviously now it's garbage. The backlight is totally useless now. But it was nice when I got it. And now back to the rest of the specs. There's no date on this watch. That's okay. The mineral crystal is clear, and it's not as reflective as a sapphire crystal would be. So that's really nice. I think mineral crystals are okay, especially on a field watch that's more of a Thule type of a watch. Mineral crystal is really just tempered glass, and it's more resistant to shattering than the sapphires. So that's good. Of course, it's also a lot easier to scratch, but if it's a tool watch, you'd prefer the scratch over the shattering. However, on this Bertucci, the mineral is protected from scratches pretty darn well by this recessed crystal. So the bezel here goes up a little bit. I don't know if you can see that, but it's actually a pretty good amount. The bezel goes up over the crystal. You can see here I'm touching the crystal, then I roll my finger back. All that material there is going up above the crystal. It's really nice. The recessed crystal is actually pretty rare for watches. Most watches have a flush or a flat crystal, but this one is really well protected. The crystal is really well protected against shattering. The bezel is large. There's an apex to it. It's not totally rounded. It does kind of come up to a ridge at the top, which is cool. The media blasted finish makes the bezel kind of glow in the light. Looks good. You can see it's reflecting that light really nicely. It's diffusing it a little bit onto the case. The entire case is media blasted. Bertucci cases are very chunky and utilitarian. They're not pretty by any means. I'll talk about the crown a little bit later, but you can see that there's an integrated crown guard. So that's sort of part of the case. The lugs are super thick. They're very chunky, very thick. They turn down very strongly. In the field watch video, I said that these were welded lugs. This does not have traditional spring bars. These are held in with hex screws. And you can see the lug bar is super thick. Much thicker than a normal spring bar. So these are heavy, heavy duty here. But it makes it a little bit harder to change a strap. So it comes with this pass-through strap. I'm so sorry, it's so filthy. I was working on a project a couple weekends ago, so it's kind of gross right now. I apologize. I should wash this strap. But anyway, you can put regular straps in here, you know, leather or whatever, you're just going to have to get out your hex tool to take the bar off. But whatever you do, whatever strap you do with this is going to be so much more robust than a standard spring bar. I really like this for a tool watch. And I actually have had a spring bar fail me in the past. The strap it came with is this Zulu strap, and I'm so sorry it's dirty. It looked beautiful when I got it, and I'm pretty sure if I just, you know, put it in some soapy water and clean it off, I bet it'll look great again. So heavy duty, but at the same time, it's been really smooth on the back. These edges are just really nicely rounded. There's nothing that's aggravating my skin whatsoever. I have very sensitive skin, and anytime there's something sticking out, it always bothers me. This strap just feels so good. Very high quality. Bertucci makes their own straps, their own Zulu straps, and you can buy replacements for it. You can buy different colors. It's definitely the best Zulu strap I've ever seen, by far. It's very thick. Stitching is very tight and everything. It looks so good. I'm sorry again for the dirtiness. Look at how many holes there are. This is crazy. So there's actually 3 inches of range on these holes. So it accommodates probably 18-inch wrist all the way down to 15-inch wrist. Each hole is 1/4 of an inch, and there's 12 holes. So that's how you get your 3 inches there. Going to the clasp. It's very basic here, but interestingly enough, they actually signed Bertucci on one of these little keepers. It's pretty subtle that it's signed there. This is really interesting. The end of the strap has 2 little raised bumps. They just did it with the stitching, and that prevents it from coming out. In fact, like when I go to take it off, it's catching here on these little bumps. You really have to want to take it off in order to get it out. Really excellent they thought of that. And it's just a little bit more security when you have it on wrist, because, yeah, it's just a little bit more security. The elephant in the room with this watch is that the crown is push-pull. And I actually thought it was screw-down when I ordered it, because so many of the other Bertucci watches have screw-down crowns. Be careful with Bertucci. Just read their product specifications very carefully. And they make it plain as day. Their product listings are so good. I just missed it on this one, the fact that it's push-pull. I think they even say it's a push-pull on the product. Just because one of their watches has a screw-down doesn't mean another one does. Just check that. But going to the crown, the knurling is really, really nice on this. It's not like the typical coinage we see. It's got these little crenels on it. It's crenellated, like a castle wall. You know, these feels so good. It's very high quality. Crown is higher quality than I expected. Time setting is very simple. The crown is either in or it's out. There's no other settings. So right now it's out. It's hacked. You can adjust the time. When it's in, it goes. That's all it is. It's a true no-date movement. So it's got a screw-down case back. There's tons of text on the back. There's kind of a good shot of it. You can see all that it has. It tells you the battery, the 626 battery. There's all kinds of different stuff on here. Apologize, it's dirty. As for the accuracy, I did not check. I did not take measurements or anything, but it's quartz, so it's going to be great accuracy. The warranty on this is actually 3 years. 3-year warranty. Industry leading 3-year warranty. They're not kidding. That is fantastic. I'd love to see that. All right, and finally the box here. Very plain box. You can see it's got this little holder for the watch. It's got a nice little, huge manual here. Very cool manual. Very easy to read. You see Enzo the dog there. Get a sticker. Get a hang tag. On to the positives. Positives! All right, the positives of the watch. Well, the first positive is the fact that it's black on white. Very legible, very easy to see. I like a white dial. I love black hands. I really like how that looks. Next positive is toughness. With this raised bezel, the crystal is super safe. It's a quartz movement, so you can bang it into things. It's going to be fine. 100 meters water resistance is really good. Mineral glass is tougher than sapphire, actually. It's more shatter resistant, so that's good. They put survivability and toughness as like the top thing. And I think that's perfect for field watch. That's what you want. You just don't want it to break. You want it to keep telling the time. The lug bars are screwed in with these hex bolts, so it is super robust. Very thick lug bars too. You're not going to break the lug bar. It's not going to pop out. These lugs are super chunky. Like, the watch is going to survive whatever you put it through. I like the reliability of the quartz. The movement's just way more accurate. That's really a positive of this. Utility, the backlight is much more functional than regular lume. It's great for checking that time at 2 a.m. like I mentioned before. It's very easy to see when your battery doesn't run out. But how quickly it drains the battery is not a positive, but the backlight itself looks really good. Another positive is I really like the case finishing. This kind of bead blasted appearance. It's so good. I love a bead blasted, media blasted, whatever they used. It looks so good. The strap color is really nice. Mine is kind of dingy right now. I should probably wash it. I love this light green color. It looks so good. The strap is so comfortable. It's really good size for me. It's substantial, but it's not too big. So I'm really pleased with the size of it. On to the negatives. Alright, the first negative has to be the push-pull crown. Why'd they do a push-pull crown? It doesn't make sense. This is something that really confuses me about Bertucci watches, is that some of them have a screw-down crown. So why doesn't this one? It's weird what they put on some watches and don't put on the others. It's kind of hard to find the perfect Bertucci that has all the features you want. And this one has a push-pull crown, which is disappointing. The conventional lume, I mentioned this in the lume part, I wish that there was a different thing at the 12 o'clock so that in the dark you could tell what it was. In fact, 12-3-6-9, they could do different. That way in the dark you can really tell the time it is. It's not a huge deal with this because you do have that backlight, unless your battery runs out like mine did. Yeah, and speaking of the backlight, how fast it burns through a battery is definitely a negative. The fact I've only had it 5 months and the backlight no longer works, that's not what you want. All I have to go off is this one model. Maybe I got a bad battery or something, but it's not looking good. The fact that it's so dim after 5 months. Another negative is the lugs protrude downward uncomfortably. Yeah, they really protrude down more than you would expect. Most of the time it doesn't bother me, but occasionally I will feel the lugs. I think it's the ulna that's on the outside, so yeah, that bump at the end of the ulna will touch into the lug. It's not very comfortable. Now on to the closing. Was this watch a good choice or a bad choice for my collection? It was an excellent choice. I love this field watch. It will always remind me of that field watch video I made because after that entire 6-hour video, this was the one that really stuck in my head. I really want to get that one. There's a lot of like more expensive ones that really caught my eye, like the SWC Trench Watch, the Victorinox, Inox, Carbon, the Cincinnati Centurion. There's a lot of other ones that I really would like to have, but this is the one I actually bought, and that really makes a difference. There's watches we think, oh, I would really like that one. Which one do you actually buy, and then which one do you enjoy once you buy it? I love wearing this one. It was a great purchase. I'm really pleased with it. And yeah, that field watch video took me like 2 or more months, like December, January, just working on it all the time in all my free time. It was kind of fun to work on, to look at all those field watches and stuff, so this reminds me of that. I love how the watch looks with the green and the silver and the white. The dial looks so good. I mean, yeah, the electroluminescent light being so dim now, just having zipped through that battery, that is not good. Hopefully when I change out the battery, the new battery will do a lot better. Obviously, I'm not going to know that for another... You know, if the battery supposedly lasts a year and a half, I'm not going to know for another year and a half if it's any good, the new battery. So right now, as of moment of recording, all I can say is that the performance of the EL light is not good. It just melts the battery instantly. So that's what I have to conclude. But before I actually did that lume test, I thought this lume was garbage. I thought the Bertucci lume is totally useless. But then after the test, it actually did better than the Hamilton Khaki Field Automatic, which has numbers, lumed numbers. But the lume numbers are not visible at all at the end of the night on the Hamilton Khaki. So the lume is actually decent on this, surprisingly, the conventional lume. So all in all, I am very pleased with this watch. I just want to put a new battery in because I love that backlight. It looks so good. I'm just going to have to get a bunch of those batteries and keep it topped up. So that's all I have to share on the watch. At the end, I always like to talk about the Bible, so that's what I'm going to do now. All right, Bible time. Usual disclaimer, I'm not a pastor or a biblical scholar. Go to your pastor if you have a question about the Bible. I just like to share the Bible. And today I'm continuing going through the 10 Commandments. So last two videos I did Commandments 1 and 2, so now we're at 3. It's the one the Protestants number the third commandment. This is found in Exodus 20, verse 7. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. As I mentioned in the previous couple videos, Christians are under a new covenant, so perfect adherence to God's law is not required for our salvation. I mean, if you read the Old Testament carefully, it never really was. They had a system of sacrifices that they would make to atone for their sins. God set that up. Nobody was following the law perfectly from the very beginning. Nobody did. No, not one is what the Bible says. None are righteous, no, not one. Even Job sinned, if you read the book of Job carefully. However, God's law is still a guide for how we should live our lives. It doesn't give us salvation, but it's still a guide for us. And God is pleased by a humble, loving heart. So out of our humble heart should flow a desire for righteous living, including an adherence to God's law, including the 10 Commandments. And yeah, I'm going through the Psalms. I'm going through the Bible, and I'm in the book of Psalms right now, and so many of these Psalms, particularly Psalm 119, talk about, I will follow your law is a blessing, just constantly hitting over the head over and over and over again about how when we follow God's law, we will be blessed. That's why we should follow the law. It's just built into creation that if you live righteously, you are blessed. Your life is good when you live righteously. So, Commandment 3 is about blasphemy. Lack of love and reverence for the creator of time and space. So Psalm 74:18 says, Remember this, that the enemy hath reproached, O Lord, and that the foolish people have blasphemed thy name. When I was saved at 30-something, I became convicted immediately that the actual words God and Jesus were precious to me. I started to get really uncomfortable when I heard people using either God or Jesus flippantly. When I would hear that in culture, when I would hear people say that, it would kind of hurt a little bit personally. And this was a work of the Holy Spirit in my heart. Psalm 138 verse 2 says, You have exalted above all things your name and your word. So God exalts his name. It's very precious to him. This commandment is here for a reason. He tells us, don't misuse my name. It's extremely important you not misuse the name of the Lord. That's important to God. Famously, the Hebrews were so concerned about violating the third commandment that they replaced the name of God with YHWH, or YHVH. It's called the Tetragrammaton. They took out the vowels. I know there's more to this, like, it's sort of a shorthand. They wouldn't write the vowels. I guess they're saving angst, saving pages, whatever. They just wouldn't include the vowels a lot of times. But apparently with this Tetragrammaton, they literally went back and redacted Bibles that would have the vowels. They didn't want people accidentally saying the name of the Lord. They were so worried about this. The proper name of the Lord. So YHWH, a lot of Christians pronounce that Jehovah. People also pronounce it Yahweh. Jehovah and Yahweh are the same. They refer to the same name, and it is the proper name of God. When Abraham came across the burning bush and God spoke to him directly, Abraham said, what is your name? And Jehovah, Yahweh, God, told him, I am that I am. And so that's what Jehovah and Yahweh means. I am. Self-existent, eternal. Means he's the uncreated being. Means he's the unmoved mover. I am that I am. The Strong's number for this is 3068. So I mentioned Yahweh. There's a lot of other names for God. Another one is Yah, just straight up Yah. It means the sacred name. It's an abbreviated form of Yahweh, and it's Strong's 3050. I've got a few others here. Ehyeh, I am that I am. Adonai is one that's used a lot. It means Lord. Elohim means God the Creator. That's Strong's 430. El is a shortened form of Elohim. Means strength and mighty. That's Strong's 410. Shaddai is another one. That's Almighty. Kedosh Israel, Holy One of Israel. Tzevaot. There's tons of these. Yeshua is the name of Jesus. Emmanuel, God with us. Messiah. There's so many different words we use to describe God. You know, in modern English, we pretty much just say God. If you're Arabic and you're a Christian, you refer to God as Allah, because Allah means God in Arabic. So we have different names for God. In English, we say God. That's not what Jesus would have said. He would have said one of these other ones. He would have said Yahweh. He would have said Adonai. Even Abba, Father, can mean God. Okay, so what's the practical application of the commandment, third commandment? Well, each commandment has a positive side and a negative side. Here's what I mean. The negative side says, do not do this thing. Do not do the negative thing. Do not use God's name wrongly. Implicit in every commandment is a positive side. So it's not just don't do this, it's do this other thing. And so the positive side of commandment 3 is to use God's name with reverence and awe. Holy means set apart, so God's name should be set apart in our language and treated differently than other words. I'm reading a book to help me go through the commandments, and this one is called Pathway to Freedom by Alistair Begg. And on the third commandment, he mentions 4 ways that we can misuse God's name. So for the negative side here. He also had some stuff about the positive side, but I'll just talk about the negative here. He says there's more than just these 4 ways we can misuse the name of God, but I thought these 4 ways were pretty comprehensive. So there's perjury, blasphemy, flippancy, and hypocrisy. So I'll start with perjury. Perjury is swearing on the name of God. So we say swearing to mean just like saying cuss words, but technically it's different. Swearing is actually way worse. When you think about swearing as being bad, it's when you swear on the name of God that you will do something, or swear on the name of God that something's true, and you're actually lying, or you actually don't do what you said you would do. It's worse than just regular lying if you say, I swear on the name of God I will do X, Y, or Z, and you don't actually do it. Now, the Bible does say you should swear. It says, if you swear, do what you say. So swearing itself is not bad. What's really bad is if you swear and you lie, or you swear and you don't do what you said you were going to do. Numbers 30, verse 2, and these are all English Standard Version. If a man vows a vow to the Lord, or swears an oath to bind himself by a pledge, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. Matthew 5, verses 33 through 37. Again, you have heard it said to those of old, you shall not swear falsely, but shall perform to the Lord what you have sworn. But I say to you, do not take an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not take an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. Let what you say be simply yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil. Jesus says, do not swear at all. Don't make it a practice to be like, I swear to God, X, Y, or Z. Do not do this. That's what Jesus says. Now, he doesn't necessarily prohibit it, if you read this carefully. So if you go to the courtroom and they ask you to swear, I will tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. You must tell the truth. It's especially severe if you swear on the name of God. But we can obey the civic authorities and actually do what is required in the courtroom. That's the first of 4 ways to misuse the name of the Lord. The second that Alistair Begg mentions is blasphemy. So blasphemy being contempt or disrespect of the Lord's name. Treating the holy as unholy. We shouldn't do that. Examples of this include saying, "Oh my God." I'm just telling you the example. I'm not using it flippantly. And saying like, "God, damn it." These sorts of things are using the Lord's name flippantly, and they should not be done. According to Alistair Begg, even things like saying "the big guy" or "the man upstairs," that's an example of taking something very holy, the name of God, the name of the Lord, and then substituting some sort of other name for him that is not respectful. That's not good. We should not do that. Let me read Hebrews 10, verse 29. "How much worse punishment do you think will be deserved by the one who has trampled underfoot the Son of God and has profaned the blood of the covenant by which he was sanctified and has outraged the Spirit of grace? For we know him who said, 'Vengeance is mine, I will repay,' and again, the Lord will judge his people. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. So do not profane the blood of the covenant. Treat the name of God with respect." Blasphemy. Okay, the third one is called, Begg calls, flippancy. That's throwing the name of God around willy-nilly, not grasping the weight of invoking God. A good example of this is false prophecy, saying, "God told me in a vision X, Y, or Z," when it's not true. If God didn't actually tell you that, that's flippant. So that's not so much disrespecting God, that's sort of like pulling up the goodwill people have towards God, but then it's not true. It's like a lie. So let me look at Jeremiah 23, verse 21. "I did not send the prophets, yet they ran. I did not speak to them, yet they prophesied. But if they had stood in my counsel, then they would have proclaimed my words to my people, and they would have turned them from their evil way and from the evil of their deeds." So Israel was following prophets that God had not sent. Prophets who were speaking in the name of the Lord, but it was lies. The Lord had not sent those prophets. He had not put the words in the prophet's mouth. This is a violation of the third commandment that these false prophets engaged in. The fourth way to misuse the name of God is hypocrisy. And so that's worshiping insincerely. It's sort of similar to the flippancy. It seems less blatant, but it's still not good. Isaiah 29:13. "And the Lord said, because this people draw near with their mouth and honor me with their lips, while their hearts are far from me, and their fear of me is a commandment taught by men. Therefore, behold, I will again do wonderful things with this people, with wonder upon wonder. The wisdom of their wise men shall perish, and the discernment of their discerning men shall be hidden." So the Lord was mad at Israel for just worshiping insincerely. They were taught by others, you show up at the temple, you say all these things, you do these bowing, you do whatever. Their heart wasn't in it. If we are talking to God, it is very important that our heart is behind the words we are saying. If we're just going through the motions, it is actually a form of third commandment violation. You're not respecting God. You're not worshiping God in spirit and in truth. Just worshiping God through the physical body, just with actions and words and vanity. Okay, so that was a lot on the third commandment. As always, more could be said, but I definitely felt convicted that I need to respect the name of God and Jesus and the Lord, Father in heaven, Almighty. We have a lot of names for God, and anytime we speak of God, we need to be reverential and respectful and not flippant or blasphemous or perjurous or hypocritical. Now for a prayer. Lord, I repent of all the times that I have used your name flippantly, that I've misused your name, that I've spoken your name out of anger. I've invoked you in ways I shouldn't have. All the ways that I have sinned against you, particularly in regard to the third commandment, Lord, I just pray that you would forgive me, and I pray that you would help me not to misuse your name in any way. Pray that you would help me on the positive side also to just honor your name and worship you. I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace always and in every way. The Lord be with you all. See you next time. And I know that he'll be with